August. Your last chance to plant perennials that will transform your garden. It's already August, and this is precisely the right time to talk about plants that you risk missing if you don't plant them right now. Many gardeners think it's too late to plant anything in August, but this is a huge mistake. On the contrary, August is the last blessed window when the earth is still warm. There's sufficient moisture in it, and there's enough time before the frosts for plants to establish strong roots. Let's figure out which perennials absolutely need to be planted right now, and you'll understand why you'll regret missing this moment. In this video, I'll tell you about 5 unpretentious but incredibly beautiful plants that will not only transform your garden but will delight you year after year. I'm talking about plants that don't require complex care, grow well in different climatic conditions, and most importantly, they absolutely love being planted in August. You'll learn why August is ideal for planting, how to properly prepare the location, what to pay attention to when choosing seedlings, and what conditions each plant needs. So if you want your garden to be lush and vibrant already next year, stay with us until the end of the video. Herbaceous peony. Let's start with a royal plant that will grace any garden, the peony. And don't think that growing peonies is complicated. On the contrary, it's one of the most rewarding plants you can plant in August. Actually, August and September are the best time for peonies because by this point their growing season ends. The plant is preparing for dormancy, and the root system is just beginning to develop actively. Why exactly August? Because the peony is a plant that doesn't like to rush. If you plant it in spring, it may not bloom in the first year or two. But if you plant it in August, the roots will develop throughout the fall and even winter in mild climatic conditions. When warmth arrives in spring, the peony will wake up already with a developed root system and a powerful start. Planting a peony in August is straightforward. First, you need to choose the location. Peonies love sun but can also grow in partial shade. The main thing is that the location should be well ventilated and not in a depression where water would accumulate. Dig a hole approximately 60 by 60 centimeters. Yes, that's large, but believe me, the peony will grow in one place for decades, so it's worth doing everything correctly from the start. Place drainage on the bottom of the hole, ceramsite or small stones in a layer of 10 to 15 centimeters. Then add fertile soil mixed with compost. Here's an important point. If you have heavy clay soil, definitely add sand so the roots don't rot. The peony seedling should be planted so that its renewal buds, these are the pink or red bumps on the rhizome, are at a depth of no more than 3 to 5 centimeters from the soil surface. This is very important. If planted too deep, the peony may not bloom. If planted too high, it will freeze in winter. After planting, water the plant well. There should be enough water so the soil settles and fills all voids. In August and September, continue watering the peony once a week if there's no rain. This will help it root more quickly. By November, you should gradually stop watering to prepare the plant for winter. In winter, peonies don't require covering in most regions, but in the harshest climate zones, you can mulch the soil around the plant with dry leaves or peat in a layer of 5 centimeters. In spring, when the soil thaws, remove the mulch so the buds don't rot. Do you know why you'll regret not planting peonies in August? Because peonies bloom for only 2 or 3 weeks a year, but when they bloom, it's a stunning sight. Large, fragrant flowers are striking in their beauty, and if you start planting in spring, you'll wait for blooming another 2 to 3 years. But if you plant in August, there's a good chance you'll see the first flowers already in the second year. Plus, peonies live incredibly long, sometimes more than 50 years in one place. This is a plant that will leave a legacy to your children. Perennial phlox. Now let's talk about phlox. This plant is often underestimated, but that's a big mistake. Phlox is a universal plant that blooms in summer and early fall, filling the garden with bright colors. And the most interesting thing is the fragrant varieties of phlox, which smell absolutely incredible. August is the ideal time to plant phlox because by this time they're already finishing blooming, but the root system is still actively developing. Phlox takes root very quickly when planted in August, and already next year you'll have a robust bush full of flowers. Planting phlox is simpler than peonies. They're not as demanding, but they love fertile soil and well-watered areas. If you have clay soil, be sure to loosen it by adding sand and peat. The hole should be approximately 40 by 40 centimeters. Place compost or manure on the bottom. This will improve the soil's nutritive value. Plant the phlox so that the root collar is at ground level or slightly above. If planted too deep, the plant can rot. After planting, water abundantly. In August-September, phlox needs regular watering, especially if there's no rain. They love moisture but can't tolerate waterlogging. Many gardeners don't know that phlox should be mulched. After planting, place a layer of mulch around the plant. This can be peat, sawdust, or compost. Mulch retains moisture and protects roots from overheating in summer and freezing in winter. The mulch layer should be 5 to 7 centimeters thick, but don't mulch close to the stem. Leave several centimeters of distance. Phlox grows quickly, and already in the second year the bush becomes luxuriant and full of flowers. There are phlox varieties of different types, short dwarfs, medium, and tall. You can create an entire composition of phlox of different heights, and your garden will look professionally designed. And why will you regret not planting phlox? Because phlox blooms in late summer and early fall, when many other plants have already finished blooming. This is the time when insects, especially butterflies, are actively seeking nectar. Your garden with phlox will become a magnet for beautiful butterflies and bees. Moreover, the fragrant varieties of phlox spread their aroma throughout the entire area, creating an atmosphere of romance and coziness. And here's another point: phlox holds up beautifully in cut arrangements. You'll be able to gather bouquets and decorate your home with them. Chrysanthemums. When talking about an autumn garden, the first plant that comes to mind is the chrysanthemum. And for good reason. Chrysanthemums reach peak blooming precisely when most other plants have already finished flowering. August is a critical time for planting chrysanthemums, especially perennial garden varieties. The thing is, chrysanthemums need time to root and build up foliage before the first frosts. If you plant a chrysanthemum in August, it will have 2 to 3 months to develop a strong root system. If you wait until fall, the plant may not survive the winter because it won't have time to adapt. Chrysanthemums prefer open, sunny locations where they receive at least 6 to 8 hours of sunlight daily. If you put a chrysanthemum in shade, blooming will be sparse, and the plant may not bloom at all. The soil should be well drained. Chrysanthemums cannot tolerate overwatering and can rot with waterlogging. Prepare the location by digging a hole approximately 50 by 50 centimeters. Place drainage of ceramsite or gravel on the bottom. Mix the soil with compost and sand so it's light and loose. Plant the seedling so that the root collar is at ground level. After planting, water thoroughly, and the soil will settle. Chrysanthemums respond well to fertilization. In August and September, feed them with a complex fertilizer containing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This will help the plant develop a robust bush and abundant blooming. When the first buds appear, you can switch to fertilizers with increased phosphorus and potassium content, which will improve flower quality. In fall, in October-November, when chrysanthemums begin to reach peak blooming, they become the center of garden attention. Large, brightly colored flowers against yellowed foliage look absolutely stunning. And here it doesn't matter whether you planted the chrysanthemum in August or later. If it has rooted well, it will bloom. There's an important nuance. Some chrysanthemum varieties require pinching. This means that when the young plant reaches 15 to 20 centimeters in height, you should pinch off the top part. This stimulates branching, the formation of lateral shoots. The plant becomes fuller and produces more flowers. Pinching should be done until the end of August so the plant has time to form enough shoots before blooming. Why will you regret it? Because the chrysanthemum is a plant of hope. When autumn becomes gray and dreary, when leaves fall and there are fewer flowers, the chrysanthemum blooms and turns your garden into an explosive burst of colors. This plant embodies autumn beauty, and if you miss it, you'll have to wait another whole year. Perennial aster. We've already talked about chrysanthemums, but there's another plant that's often confused with chrysanthemums but deserves separate attention: the perennial aster, or as it's also called, the September star. This plant is rightfully considered the star of the autumn garden, and August is your last chance to plant an aster before fall. There are many species and varieties of asters. There are low-growing asters 20 to 30 centimeters tall, medium ones 50 to 70 centimeters tall, and tall ones reaching a meter or more. The choice depends on where you want to plant it and how you envision it in your composition. Asters are unpretentious in care but have their preferences. They love sunny places, although they can grow in partial shade. The soil should be drained because asters don't tolerate waterlogging. If you have a moist area, you need to either improve drainage or choose a raised bed. Planting an aster is simple. Dig a hole 40 by 40 centimeters, place compost or manure on the bottom, plant the seedling so that the root collar is at ground level and water well. If you plant several asters together, leave 30 to 40 centimeters between them so they don't shade each other. An important point: asters are often affected by powdery mildew at the end of the season. This is a fungal disease in which leaves are covered with a white coating. To prevent this, plant asters in well-ventilated places and ensure good air circulation between plants. If powdery mildew does appear, you can spray the plant with a baking soda solution. This will help combat the disease. Asters don't require frequent feeding. If the soil is fertile, one feeding at the beginning of the growing season is quite sufficient. If the soil is poor, feed twice during the season, in June and in early August. One of the main advantages of asters is their long blooming period. Some varieties bloom from August until the first frosts, meaning sometimes more than 2 months. Imagine how that looks. And asters also hold up well in cut arrangements, and you can gather bouquets for your home. Why will you regret not planting an aster? Because this plant can decorate your garden during months when little else is blooming. When September and October arrive, when it's already cold and rainy, the aster will delight you with its modest but very charming flowers. This plant symbolizes faithfulness and reliability, and it's truly a gardener's faithful friend at the end of the season.
Oriental lily.
And finally, the fifth plant that absolutely must be planted in August, the lily. But not just any lily, specifically Oriental hybrids and some trumpet varieties that prefer fall planting. Lilies are plants with a capricious nature, but if you figure out how to grow them, they'll become something you're proud of. Oriental lilies have large flowers with a strong, intoxicating fragrance that spreads far around. If you've ever smelled Oriental lilies, you'll understand why this plant is worth growing. August is a good time to plant lilies because in late summer, early fall, nurseries have fresh bulbs available. The quality of these bulbs is usually better than spring planting materials. Plus, with August planting, the lily has time to root before winter and will begin vegetating early in spring, providing vigorous growth. Choosing a location for the lily is a very important moment. Lilies require an open sunny place where they get at least 6 hours of direct sunlight. In shade, lilies grow poorly and often don't bloom. But during hot times, lilies need shade because roots in hot soil can rot. The solution is simple: plant low-growing plants or ground cover around the lilies to shade the soil. Drainage for lilies is sacred. Lilies absolutely cannot tolerate waterlogging. If you have clay soil, definitely create a raised bed or loosen the soil very well. Adding sand. Definitely place drainage on the bottom of the planting hole, ceramsite, gravel, or even small stones. The planting hole for a lily should be sufficiently deep. Planting depth depends on the size of the bulb and soil type. Usually, the bulb is planted at a depth 3 times its height. If the bulb is 3 centimeters tall, plant it at a depth of 9 centimeters. This is important because lilies have roots that develop both from below and along the stem, and they need sufficient depth. After planting, water well. In August and September, continue watering lilies if there's no rain. In fall, as temperatures drop, reduce watering. When the lily begins to grow in spring, it shoots up quickly, reaching its full height by summer. And in late July, early August, buds appear and blooming begins. Oriental lilies bloom spectacularly. Large, fragrant flowers, often with wavy petals and bright gradient coloring. This is perfection in the plant world. Why will you regret missing the lily? Because the lily is a plant that requires time and experience. If you start with August planting, by the 3rd year of cultivation you'll already have experience and will be able to achieve truly wonderful blooming. The lily teaches patience, and these are lessons that are worth their price. Plus, the fragrance of an Oriental lily is something that can't be put into words. It needs to be experienced, felt personally. General advice on planting and care. Now that we've covered 5 plants, let's talk about general rules that apply to all perennials when planting in August. First is soil preparation. Whatever type of soil you have, August planting requires well-prepared, fertile soil. If the soil is poor, add compost or manure. If the soil is clay, add sand. If the soil is acidic, add ash or lime. Healthy soil is 80% of success in growing perennials. Second is watering. August and September are months when the earth is still warm and moisture evaporates quickly. Most plants require regular watering, at least once a week if there's no rain. But watering should be deep, not superficial. Water needs to penetrate to a depth of 20 to 30 centimeters where plant roots are located. Superficial watering creates the illusion of moisture, but actually the roots remain dry. Third is mulching. Mulch is your best friend in August. A layer of mulch 5 to 7 centimeters thick retains moisture, improves soil structure, suppresses weed growth, and protects roots from temperature fluctuations. As mulch, you can use peat, compost, sawdust, or coniferous bark. It's better to use what you have on hand. Fourth is protection from pests and diseases. Perennials planted in August are not yet strong enough to withstand pests and diseases. Regularly inspect plants and take measures at the first signs of problems. Often this can be simply spraying with soapy water or removing affected leaves. Fifth is support for tall plants. If you're planting tall phlox, lilies, or tall asters, install supports right at planting time. This is much easier than trying to install them later when the plant has already grown. The support can be simple: a stake or a decorative cage around the plant. Conclusion: here's your last chance. So we've discussed 5 perennial plants that absolutely need to be planted in August: peonies, phlox, chrysanthemums, asters, and lilies. Each of these plants is beautiful in its own way and will add its own note to the symphony of your garden. Remember, August is truly your last chance. If you miss this opportunity, you'll have to wait another whole year. In spring, you'll be able to plant annuals and bedding plants, but perennials require time and are best established with fall planting. What do you need to do? First, choose the right location for each plant. Second, prepare the soil by adding compost and improving drainage. Third, choose quality planting material from a nursery. Fourth, plant the plants correctly, following all recommendations for depth and spacing. And finally, provide them with regular watering and care throughout August and September. If you do everything correctly, next year your garden will be transformed. Instead of an empty space, you'll have beautiful flower beds with lush perennials that will delight you year after year. This is an investment in the future, and it's worth it. Don't postpone it. Don't tell yourself you'll do it tomorrow or next week. August passes quickly, and suddenly it's September, and then it's too late. Get out to your garden right now, start digging, choose your plants, plan your composition. It's a fascinating process, and the results will exceed your expectations. Your garden is waiting for these 5 wonderful plants, and they're waiting for you to plant them. Don't miss this last chance before fall. In August, plant perennials, and they'll definitely thank you.